Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is the daily medicine transmission for Friday, April 23rd, 2021. Welcome to Friday. I hope everyone is having as good of a week as they possibly can. There's been so much that has happened this week. And the title of today's transmission is Point of No Return. Mars enters Cancer today. Mars is not powerful in Cancer at all. The warrior spirit, the divine masculine within us, when comes into Cancer, it is in its fall position, which means it is losing power. And that first degree of Cancer is a point of no return. You are now planting your roots and stabilizing yourself in the place where you are going to develop your character and your personality. The fourth house in the Cancer archetype is the vessel that holds our emotional vulnerability, and that comes in the form of the familial matrix, the lattice work of our emotional bonds. And this can relate to our family structure. This can relate to our traditions and culture, the family traditions that we have, family of origin, our land, our regional identity, our tribal identity, our national identity, all part of the Cancer archetype, because it is the lattice work of these bonds, these familial bonds of protection and nourishment that make up the Cancer archetype. Loyalty, standing up for each other, protection. It is the womb of the mother that is the Cancer archetype. And so when Mars is in this position, cardinal fire is where he is at home, or cardinal earth, right? Capricorn is where Mars is exalted. It loves to get to work. Right? In Cancer, Mars is being asked to put its focus and attention on the bonds of the family, and that is not an easy position for Mars to be in. So once Mars stabilizes itself and makes that decision, it is a point of no return, because once your roots are planted, unless something comes along and rips you up out of the soil, this is where you will be stationed, and this is going to be a very difficult time for many people as we move through this time. We're coming up to a full moon in Scorpio on the 26th. There will be an astrology report for the lunar quarter that is this weekend, coming into the full moon on the 26th, and then the official third lunar quarter. We're going to see quite a bit of ourselves that we don't usually see, and how important it is to keep the waters of our the surface of our waters, emotional waters still, so that we can see very deeply into the truth of who we are. And it's in our relationships. That is Scorpio. It is the resource that is created from communion and cooperation. It is the power dynamic in any relationship that is a resource in and of itself that we see in Scorpio. And oftentimes it is through our relationships that we are faced with our own mirror image and have to face the abyss. This is why the 8th house is the dark night of the soul, because it is in this realm of the subconscious, into the deeper emotional impact of these relationships, that we get to the truth. And it's in Sagittarius time that creates the collective belief system and the big picture that we can act from. But like I said, Mars coming into Cancer, it's time to stabilize oneself into that matrix of emotional support that we feel we belong, and Mars is going to really struggle in this position. So just keep that in mind as we move through the next couple of weeks, where Mars will be here for a while. So let's look at the astrology for today. I want to take a moment to thank my subscribers and my regular viewers. Truly, you are the lifeblood of this channel. I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you're new to this channel, welcome. It's so great to have you here. And as always, when you interact with this content, when you comment, when you like, when you subscribe, when you share this content, it all works to support independent content creators like myself, and is more likely to be suggested through the AI algorithm to a larger audience. So even that level of interaction is very, very supportive. So thank you for that. And there will be an astrology report. Like I said, it's going to be on Subscribestar. It will be available to the public. If you do want to subscribe and support this work, that would be so appreciated. You can do that through the link in the description box to Subscribestar. And there will soon be exclusive content for those subscribers that are going to be more tailored to weekly astrology by sign. So I do kind of push back against horoscopes a little bit because I feel like the generalizations don't always help. But in this case, I feel like that at the very least, we can narrow down specifics per sign for the week for people. So that's coming. But in the meantime, you will have access to the weekly astrology reports through Subscribestar, through BitChute, through YouTube. So let's get right into it. It is, whoo boy, so interesting. Everything is so interesting. And like I said, our moon is in Virgo. So even with Mars coming into Cancer, we are being given an opportunity to emotionally discipline ourselves, become purified, become very meticulous about our emotional field, aren't we? I hope so, because this is the time to do it. So let's look at, oh, I forgot to post it on, the YouTubes. Oh, hi, Phil. I haven't seen you in so long. I know that you know exactly what's going on. I hope you're doing well down under, well, at least in reference to where I am down under. So hold on one second, guys. Let me do the social media thing just real quick. I got so excited and so enveloped in what I'm about to transmit that I didn't even do my due diligence of putting this on Facebook. So if you're catching this live, and that's awesome. If you're catching this on the replay, you can get on YouTube, you can get on BitChute, and you can go through Subscribestar. Anyway, let's look at this. Okay, so let's look at the current moment here. There's a couple things that are happening. So one, as we saw, let's go back a couple hours here, because the moon was in a trine to Venus and Uranus, who were in a conjunction with each other just yesterday. So Venus is just coming off of this conjunction, but it's still very, very powerful. And this trine today, this Earth trine with these energies is really strong, and it is giving us, it's showing us internally that when we cultivate our own soil, right? When we tend to the cultivation of the garden of our mind, to quote Fred Rogers, the garden of the mind, when we put the time and the energy and the sensitivity that Venus especially allows for us, and, it's disruptive with Uranus, but when we do that, we will be able to feel within us and have some measure of reflection back to us that we are going to see, the fruits of our cultivation and labor and our nurturing. And when we look at the intuitive message today, it's spelled out pretty clearly that the time is now to take responsibility for ourselves and our own energy field, and to take advantage of the healing potential that is being created, even in the most disruptive and uncomfortable ways, because it is allowing us to clear out the debris that is unnecessary within our field, our energetic field, our spiritual life, and create the space for something new to grow. We cannot allow ourselves to wait for external circumstances to give us a sense that we are moving forward and evolving, because otherwise we leave ourselves open to other people's interpretations. We leave ourselves open to other people's decisions that have no real interest in the evolution of humanity, but only to serve their own ends. And I assure you that that is falling away. But when we talk about the moon, this is our own consciousness being structured. This is our own emotional landscape. And in Virgo, it is about getting down into the nitty-gritty of these aspects, getting into under the surface of who we are, making sure our root system is strong. That is the good thing about Mars that is about to move into Cancer. That first degree or two, it's still got some power, but as Mars is going to move through Cancer, it's going to become more difficult, and that part of ourselves, that warrior energy, is going to start losing power as his focus is is now turned onto the matrix of our emotional bonds, our family, our identity with a region or a tribe or a nation, whatever it is, our land. It's going to be harder to enact all of that really cardinal fire energy in this place. And so protection is really going to be much more of where Mars is going to be focused in terms of the divine masculine. Now, this can be a way to bring these two aspects together. I have done a lot of starseed readings recently where people's Pleiadian aspect is where their Mars is, right? Healthy masculinity, right? Healthy masculinity can step forward there. And women, men, regardless of your biological sex and intersexed people, it's an archetype of experience, especially Pleiadian, right? Because the Pleiadian starseeds are fluid with these expressions of gender as an archetypal structure. So Mars coming into this feminine sign, it can actually promote some level of protection and the healthy masculinity of the role of the protector in terms of a masculine archetype. So there are benefits here, but just remember the warrior acting out energy that Mars is naturally holding, or in its exaltation in Capricorn, right? Putting it to work, it's going to struggle, but we can really get something out of this time, okay? And the moon, and like I said, the moon in Virgo is giving us this chance to each individually get our emotional state in check, to be purified, to discipline it. And if we are taking the time and the energy and the sensitivity to cultivate our own garden, the own garden of our mind and our own resources and our material life, we will feel in some way, we will see some measure of reflection back to us in the moon, right? Because the moon is getting brighter. So we have a lot more ability to see. Where is the light of the sun today? Well, 4 degrees of Taurus is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So there's also this level of faith and the linking between spirit and matter. Remember that the rainbow is a measure of a covenant, of a contract, and it also embodies the entire visible light spectrum. That's what I meant to say. All of the colors operate on a different frequency, different wavelength, which is why they're different colors. But at the end of the day, it all is the visible spectrum, and it does link, right? The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is, there was a cardinal, suggests that there is a natural communion between spirit and matter. And when we take care of our world right in front of us, I'll never forget the Pleiadian channeling from Barbara Marciniak. One of the first ones this was years ago when I first came to realize this was even a thing. One of the things that the P's, that's what they're called, through Barbara Marciniak, when she channels them, one of the things they talked about was, people were like, what can I do? What can I do? And they were just like, mow your lawn, do your dishes, take care of your house, clean up your mess, and cultivate your own garden. And when we do that, then the moon in Virgo, like I said, will get a reflection back to us, something that'll be like, we're going to see the some symbol of our longing to create something in this process, okay? So this Earth trine today is really grounding some things. Now, it's in a quincunx to Chiron, of course, so that's just going to be one hand is just like the wounding and the victimhood and the vulnerability of that wound in Aries is just not going to fit where the moon in Virgo is, because the moon in Virgo is like, okay, I'm taking full responsibility. I'm being meticulous and detail-oriented. I am in a master of my own emotional landscape, whereas the Chiron in Aries is just constantly triggering us in terms of our subjective experience. So that's going to provide some opportunities for adjustment today, of course. And also we have the moon in a square to the nodes. Oh, look at that. The moon in a square to the nodes. I wrote this down, but I closed it. So we're gonna look at 12 degrees Virgo, because this square, I think, is okay. Yeah. Oh boy, the unveiling power of the trained mind. So, for as much as the nodes represent this axis of knowing and understanding, where we're being drawn in order to to evolve. And the North Node is very, in terms of its Sabian symbol, is very related to what is going on in the United States right now. I'm just going to give you the Sabian symbol, and I am going to amend it so that it is not as verbally triggering to people. You have to remember that these symbols were channeled in the early 1900s when people used different words for things. But it's basically a young black woman fighting for her independence in the city, right? It's the idea that we're liquidating our past situation of being confined in some way in order to step forward into a free future. And so that is characterized by that particular symbol. Now you can see how that's completely congruent in some ways with what's happening right now in the United States. So we feel we're getting pulled in this direction to liquidate the past in order to step forward into this new future. And the nodes, the square of the nodes, the challenge here is that, well, for all of that, we are going to, there's going to be a great unveiling within us, right? And I talked about this already yesterday. This is going to come to fruition collectively with the full moon in Scorpio. But right now, each of us individually, because Virgo is about the mastering of the individual, there is an unveiling, right? There is, unveiling of mysteries, unveiling of what often is left up to, just being, how do I say this? In dreams, right? The element of training in this scene, especially Virgo, is showing that there's, that the trained mind can penetrate and go right through all of the illusions. And so there's this real opportunity for this to also be the case today when the moon squares the nodes. So this has already happened, right? We're looking at 5:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we've already gone through a lot of these transits that are happening. Now you see here that the moon is about to quincunx Saturn in Aquarius as well. And kind of the same thing here is that we might try to take some level of control within ourselves, having this really powerful personality that's starting to develop within us as a result of our training, is going to kind of take control over what might be a really chaotic moment. And speaking of chaos, asteroid Ceres is in a conjunction, you don't see it on this chart, is in a conjunction today with Eris, the goddess of discord. So just you wait. That is the earth herself teaming up with the goddess of chaos in this degree in Aries that is saying you can be in two places at once. And in fact, that is kind of part of the process of creation, is that there are two realities at the same time. And you can live in them both, because you have to simultaneously live in one and the other if you're going to create some third point, right? The apex out of duality. So just be ready that there's a huge solar flare coming. A CME was released from the sun yesterday that's going to hit here in a couple of days. And so that's not surprising. And when those things happen, it affects the weather, right? It's been snowing here. I mean, not a lot, just some flakes, but it's April, which is also not that unusual. But at the same time, the whole point is that when these unexpected chaotic elements come together, and then the representation of the actual nourishment and Gaia herself. I mean, we did just have Earth Day yesterday. She's going to meet with Eris, and they are going to stimulate this chaotic moment to show us that the chaos is where we come out of it in balance and homeostasis. So in the meantime, the moon, as we are trying to kind of focus this need for order into a really strong personality that's ready to take order in quincunx to Saturn. Well, Saturn in Aquarius is really the moon in Virgo is no match. And so the quincunx, right? The barometer, the natural progression of events, when we see it in its fullness, when you see the entire fractal structure in one form, you're able to be like, oh, when these elements change, this is the basis of chaos theory, right? Weather patterns and meteorology are based off chaos theory, which is when you make a change in the system, the entire system has the potential to change. And so it takes real mastery in an Aquarian way to be able to see all of those timelines all at once, and then be able to hone in on the progression, the natural progression when variables change. And so we may want to try to take control of something internally. And again, with Saturn, we are going to have a real opportunity to adjust ourselves today in reference to that. And then, of course, Mars goes into Cancer today. Like I said, the point of no return, where we plant our flag. Mars is definitely going to plant its flag and then has to remain with that flag and protect it, rather than going out and being part of like a war party or something, But this is, again, we get a chance to engage with this part of the masculine that often is not nurtured very much. And so the other aspect is being nurtured by our community, our family, being nurtured, that healthy divine masculine counterpart being nurtured by this containment system and supporting what Mars is trying to do. So these are a lot of different ways to think of. We have lots of time to think about Mars and Cancer. So after that happens is when then the moon transits for a while, and then eventually gets to a opposition to Neptune. Oh my. Neptune is in a position right now that it's like, it's time to give everything of yourself in order to bring this aspect forward, right? It's a medium in a seance. We talked about this already. Sometimes you have to give of yourself. You have to surrender something personal in order to give yourself to the community. I really want to read this Sabian symbol, actually. A materializing medium giving a seance, the ability to give of one's own vital energy to substantiate one's conscious ideals, that's the light side, or unconscious desires. So deception is a real big part of this when you are taken in by your own, your unconscious desires and your shadow, right? Because that's really what the shadow is. It's not necessarily the negative aspect. It's the aspect that's not seen until you shine light on it, right? The shadow, unconscious desires. When we are unaware of these things, then they are easily manipulated and exploited, right? And we can be deceived. Now, this opposition from the moon in Virgo is about taming our vital energies, okay? This tension today is really going to put us in a position where we can either, we don't want to tame it so much that we can't give of any energy to the situation, but we have to be very mindful what our conscious ideals versus unconscious desires are, because those unconscious desires are being exploited by, by those who stand to gain from that. So that's something to consider. And this moon in Virgo is giving us the opportunity to really discipline our intuitive channel and our emotional landscape so that we know exactly who we are, what our conscious ideals are, and that we can give of ourselves to substantiate them consciously. And if you're not even considering the fact that your unconscious desires play into how you see the world around you, then you have a lot of work to do. And that's just what it is. And I'm not, nobody's perfect. And the minute that you think you have it all figured out is when you might as well just admit you have nothing figured out. All I know is that I don't know nothing, right? Shout out to Operation Ivy. But that's really what we're working on right now. So this is today's astrology, and we're going to look at the reading because it's quite fascinating. Let's see here. All right, friends. I'm kind of on a tear today. And I have a lot of alternative, non-esoteric responsibilities going on too. So I'm like trying to fit it all in, and it's Friday. So, here we go. So we have the devil reversed as our causal factor, okay? We, in some ways, this is being released from our bondage, right? And in other ways, and the wheel of karma being released from the illusion. And also those who have been holding us back, I would say, are also losing their grip on power. But I think, from an esoteric and a metaphysical standpoint, from an archetypal standpoint, you see that we are being released from the illusion, released from the trap, the wheel of karma, this is where if we don't, deal with our unconscious desires. They come out in the 12th house, you know what I mean? So this is the turning upside down of this situation and unveiling some things. Again, there's that moon in Virgo, right? The unveiling and the release, right? The release from bondage. And in the Rider-Waite deck, here, let's look at this. In, the release from the wheel of karma, you see these two cells that are in meiosis and these souls trapped in them. It's part of the process of being incarnated in the physical material world, in the material universe that we live in. This is this reversal, being released from the illusion that this is all there is and that we are more than this and that there is more than what we are maybe seeing out there. And then we come into, and just like I said, the Rider-Waite deck, it's two individuals, a man and a woman, and they're chained, but they could at any point just take that off. This is something has shifted. And this is why the point of no return, because once you turn this over and you wake up, there's no going back to sleep necessarily, not without some major disruption or really damage to you, right? So if you wake up to your divine being and then you go back to sleep and put your head back in the sand or whatever, this is where, when you get to Pisces in the 12th house, this is your undoing, right? Well, this whole trap of material reality is undoing itself right now for whatever reason. So here we have that as our causal factor. Here's the heart of the moment. We have Mercury in Sagittarius, the Eight of Wands, the swiftness, sudden realizations coming in. Decisive action is needed though, because it's swift. And look, here's lots of rainbows as part of today. We also have setting your course as part of our guidance. There's some aspects that have come back. You're going to see diversity now is reversed at the top of our awareness. It's time to make some decisions. And Mars is going to make that very, very clear. All right. So, but in the heart of the matter today, right, the axis point of our horizon of consciousness and our pole of our power is this swiftness of mind and action. We have a sudden realization that is going to require us to act and be decisive in this mode of very high speed movement, right? Mercury is about movement and movement of energy, movement of ideas, and it's progression, ideas, there's changes, there's developments, and it's going to move quickly. And part of it is because there is this flip here, this release from the illusion, right? And that's why the devil card, I mean, everybody has, this is just how I read it, is the devil is the illusion that you're trapped, is the illusion that material world is all there is. And this illusion is flipping around and being released. And then we have this influx, this movement, the swift movement of realization. Now, at the root here, here's the Four of Keys. This has been coming up quite a bit, clearing the way. So energetically in our root, in our subconscious, even as much as it's difficult, we are clearing space, right? We are moving things out of the way, moving material obstacles out of the way. Venus and Uranus coming together, it was a big part of that. Just wait till Mercury and Uranus come together over the weekend. That's going to be part of it too. We're clearing the way. And when we can root into this place and be conscious that we are moving obstacles physically out of the way to do what? To create space for something new to grow. We root here. And then as we move up through this sudden realization, right, the swift shift in perspective that requires decisive action, even if it's a decisive action to change our perspective. Here we have the Five of Scrolls, the diversity. We talked about this week. Now it's reversed, right? It's time to make a choice. There's a lot of things happening at once right now. It can be overwhelming, but it's time to actually make a choice. Focus on one thing. And Mars, again, will make that very clear to us, depending on where Mars is in your chart. It's going to tell you what your natal Mars, your progressed Mars, the current Mars, and how it's aspecting everything else in those charts. It's going to tell you what areas of your life that this is going to impact. But on a general level, it's time to make a choice. It's time to hone in on one stream of thought and put your energy in there and realize that at the root of it, it's about clearing space out in a material way so that a new seed can come. Look at that as the outcome. Ace of Discs, the beginning of something new coming in a very material way, right? The nuts and bolts of reality. And we see here that the old way, Pluto in Capricorn, it is now falling. It is really falling. And I suspect that with Mars coming into Cancer today, Ceres and Eris coming together in Aries in a square to Pluto, there's a lot that is about to shift. And if we allow ourselves to be rooted in a space where we are clearing our own field out of all of these obstacles in a very material way, I mean, there's lots of ways you can look at it, and focus that energy, that swift energy, that 8 of Wands into one singular focus, whatever that is for us, we are poised to create something new and beautiful if we choose to do that. Not everybody is going to be on this trajectory. Now, there's some really interesting things here. Number one, here's our 3 of Scrolls. Remember, we're setting a new course. There's the rainbow again, right? We're looking out. There is that Saturn in Aquarius, right? We're setting our course. We're looking out over the expansive ocean. We're making decisions about which way we're going to go. And the captain is looking out into the distance and taking stock of what's out there while his navigators are looking at the map. They're making decisions, setting the course. So while you're clearing out all the obstacles, at the same time, you can also be wrapping your mind around where we're going. We're not there yet. I mean, you're just now setting the course, right? And you have to have some measure of trust in where we're going. And the sun in Taurus today is absolutely supporting this too, especially the degree, 4 degrees, like I said, 4 degrees Taurus, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? Now, it's important that we are not listening to other people. Don't even listen to me necessarily. Listen to it, take it in, make it part of your analysis. That is what Virgo is all about. Take every detail, crunch the numbers, crunch the data, take in everything with a level of mastery and discipline in order to really come to terms with what it is that you're trying to create or what you want. And maybe, just maybe, seeing where there are unconscious desires that are being influential on where we are directing our energy. So we have 2 cats here. So this is really important. Lyran, first of all, the Lyrans, which are, old and ancient and fearless. Now, and take some time out of your usual life and spend it in solitude. The snow leopard is a very solitary animal. The cats, for the most part, are very solitary, not like dogs who are related to the Cancerian energy. They live in a pack. They're very loyal. They're very empathic. Cats are different entirely. But this is suggesting that take some time out, right? Instead of getting all pulled into everybody else's version of the narrative. It's only when we trust our own gut and that we fine tune our discernment so that we can get our own guidance and know that it's true for us. You can't do that while you continue to interact with everybody else's version of reality because you don't know what their real agenda is. I mean, a lot of it's money and keeping you in fear or in a state of panic or in a state of worry and fractured, keeping us all fractured. So taking some time away to really get clear with yourself and what you're clearing out and where you are headed. It's really important. And along with that is the cat. It's time to strike out on your own and relinquish your over-dependency on others. There's a difference between interdependency, which is very Cancerian, and over-dependency, which is much more of a codependent type of relationship where you don't trust yourself, where you completely rely on other people's input and their version of reality. Now, it's time for us to hone in. Now, if you look at these 2 cards, right, diversity and then the Queen of Keys, these are both women that are standing at the top of their domicile and looking out over what they identify as theirs, right? It's important that we start taking some responsibility, some ownership, some authority over the material world around us and really take a step back and be sure that it's our it's our intuitive guidance that is driving. Because if we don't, then we are just, we're just led around by our energetic nose, thinking that, if we keep parroting the same thing that we're being told, it's only this way if you do it this way or you think this way. And we have to really step away from that, because it's only, Aquarian energy, the age of Aquarius, right? Regardless if it's started yet technically or not, I don't think it really has. We have to wait until Pluto gets into Aquarius, at least. We've got a couple more years. But part of this is there is no healthy Aquarian collective without healthy Leo. When healthy Leo is confident and sovereign, this is a queen, right? This is a person who is sensitive and emotional and nurturing, but she's also in charge. And a cat is in charge. If you have cats, you know that they are just in charge of themselves, okay? It's time to make a decision about what we're going to be responsible for and step into some authority about it, and relinquish that overdependency on other people, because it's only people who can't sustain their own energy that feed off of others. I mean, it's the narcissistic tendency. So, yeah. Whew, it feels so powerful right now, and it feels really timely. So that's the transmission for today, Friday. It is the point of no return. It's not to say that you can't come back. You'll have to take a different route. There's no coming back. You're just going to, if you take the wrong way, you're just going to have to find your detour when you realize it. And this is why it's so important that you make sure that you know which direction you're going and why, and take some time away from everybody else's opinion about it, and make sure that you are in authority over, what is considered yours. That's a very Taurus thing, that material reality. The second house is everything we have and that we quote unquote own, and that is at our disposal. It's important that, because if we want to, create this new material reality, which is happening regardless, right? Pluto in Capricorn these are fixed points in time. We don't change them, because these are the cycles, these cosmic cycles unfolding. It's what we do with it that is really the basis of these intuitive messages. And that's why the transmission is very, both sides of the brain, right? You have the left side of the brain with the astrology aspect just showing you here is the transits. And then you have the right side of the brain, which gives you the holistic perspective and brings it all together into this transmission. So guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate every single one of you for being yourself and to doing the work that is necessary for all of us to evolve. If you are interested in a reading, knowing your starseed origins, or you need energetic support, you can go to catalystenergies.net. That is in the description box below, and you can book a service through there. You can also find Catalyst Energies on Facebook and on Telegram. These transmissions and astrology reports are on YouTube, BitChute, and Subscribestar. Those are all accessible in the description box below, depending on what platform you find yourself on. So guys, have a great weekend. There will be some astrology to get us through the weekend up to the full moon coming at some point today. And yeah, we're birthing a new world. So it's really important that you understand your purpose and your role within that, in order to bring about the healthiest Aquarian collective that we can. I love you guys. I'll see you on Monday for the